So, ja, vielen Dank für alle, die heute Nachmittag hier sind. Ich weiß am ersten.
Thank you very much for coming here this afternoon. And, I always appreciate the later slots in the afternoon because I know you have many appointments here on the trade show. Well, the previous host already announced what I've been up to in recent Minds. First of all, let me clarify, what does Client Minds do? Well, we do omni-channel strategy and conversion optimization across, i.e., how can we across all channels, how can I increase my revenue across all channels? And last but not least, we look at a target group, women. This may sound bizarre for you, but everybody knows from their own area that women have a different purchasing performance than men, and more than 2 billion euros per annum are allegedly lost in the online field due to a lack of motivation of females. And if you think you're losing money here, you can contact me anytime. I think these topics perfectly complement each other, therefore it makes perfect sense. First of all, let me put the following question. Will online companies become sedentary in the future? Will they become brick and mortar? I looked at Süddeutsche.de, German or German quality paper, and it says Jeff Bezos displaces Bill Gates. For the first time, Bezos is topping the list of the richest people in the world, and Trump is probably not too happy about the ranking. And first of all, I would like to talk about Amazon and Bezos, but at the end of my presentation, I'm also going to talk about Trump. Anyway, Amazon, especially over the past year, created a lot of newspaper headlines. They said, we're going to open a bookstore, brick-and-mortar bookstore. We opened a supermarket Go, and then we buy a supermarket chain totaling more than 470 stores. And this is where many people pricked up their ears and said, isn't that going to be a revival of the brick-and-mortar trade? And apart from that, especially Urlaubsguru is opening a retail shop. That was also something where many people in the tourism industry pricked up their ears. And okay, maybe many people thought it's not that bad. We will still remain or keep our raison d'etre. But anyway, I have a different take on that topic, and I'm going to explain this in greater detail. There are 3 core messages which I would like you to take home. Message number 1. I don't see any gravitation of onliners towards brick-and-mortar trade. If onliners gravitate toward other channels, then they try to be where the customers are. And I'm going to give you a few examples of where that is in a minute. Last but not least, and I think that's an important message, and I think that's a take-home message for every one of us, each and every one of us. It's all about data. It's very much data-driven. Let me just start with 3 examples and take a closer look at them and explain to you why the individual players are going online. First of all, furniture. Furniture is going online. Some of you may have watched the news and seen what's going on in the field of digitalization, will be aware of the fact that furniture and grocery are seen as the top areas which will see fundamental sea changes in years to come. Let's have a look at the current incumbents in the digital world in the furniture field. It's like in many other areas. The incumbents tend to be players who were not in the brick-and-mortar trade in the old days. Home24, that's a subsidiary of Rocket Internet. Rocket Internet also owns Zalando, Ambiente Direct, Connox, and other companies like Cairo. They're very strong online, but they also have their own outlets in 5 cities. This is one of them. I think this image was taken from the Munich shop. What's important here is that these guys go online, but there's many other channels where they're also present. Cairo, for instance, is very strong with its blog, so anything to do with interior decoration, trends, colors will be showcased on the blog. And something else, and that may come as a surprise for many people from the tourism industry, where people have been discussing whether catalogs, high-gloss catalogs, are here to stay. whether they will survive in the future. Especially the furniture dealers or retailers are very strong when it comes to hard copy catalogs. So what happens? Are all of them backpedaling? No, they just round out their product by the additional channels. In the furniture field, many of you may say, okay, the touch and feel is very important. I need a store to be able to witness the furnitures. But at the end of the day, if the furniture providers want to gain confidence and trust, strengthen their profile and attract their customers to the online shop as a result of that. Home24 came to the conclusion that as a result of their shops, they've got much bigger online shopping baskets. So apparently brick-and-mortar paid off. I'm going to give you a second example, which many of you know, and where you may say, no, it's a completely different business here. Okay, MyMuesli. How many of you know it? Not too many. All right, quite a few people know MyMuesli. Just in case you don't know MyMuesli is just a configurator where you can put together your own muesli. I personally, for instance, can't stand cornflakes in my muesli. I can pick and select and configure my muesli online to make sure that I don't have any cornflakes or any raisins or whatever, blackcurrants. And my muesli is the best example for somebody who also goes offline or brick and mortar. My muesli goes offline. I've got more than 50 shops offline, brick and mortar shops. But what's so astounding is that we've got the top CBD business district, so that it's really in downtown. I mean, close to Viktualienmarkt. I mean, that's like Trafalgar Square, and you may well imagine that that location, close to Viktualienmarkt in Munich, is not the cheapest one. Why does MyMuesli have the brick-and-mortar stores? Well, first of all, in order to round out the online sales, then they also use these shops to validate new products. And, of course, they also increase their brand profile, their brand awareness. But if you take a closer look, there's also many other reasons which speak in favor of brick-and-mortar stores. I hardly know any company which is quite as active in the field of newsletter marketing. They won various awards with their newsletters. MyMuesli does not just want to share information through the newsletters, but the newsletters are used for sales pitches. So I increase my repeat buyers rate. I have many offers which I can spread and share through the newsletters. And even if I think the mechanisms are so transparent to me, they're still very compelling, and the newsletters are very strong, and they make me buy again. So it's an exclusive sales media which goes beyond online and pays off for online. So this is another example from the newsletter. So give us a word-of-mouth recommendation and secure one of the Muesli gifts or presents. I mean, this is sales psychology at its best. MyMuesli is really, really clever when it comes to reaching out to the customer through different channels. Last but not least, MyMuesli is also very strong, very active at many bigger supermarkets, Edeka and Rewe, like Walmart or Sainsbury's, whatever, are also places where you can find MyMuesli here. So where does MyMuesli come from? Well, as far as I'm concerned, MyMuesli is purely a digital player, so they exclusively control their customers digitally and their sales channels, and this is their USP. Maybe some of you is thinking, okay, it's a small fish. Well, I'm going to give you a figure. 2016, MyMuesli had a sales of 51 million with a niche product. Well, it's not that small, and they featured a growth rate of 35%. And in the meantime, they've also expanded internationally. Of course, you can't really compare this to what I said at the beginning, to Amazon. MyMuesli is small fries compared to Amazon. Last year, Amazon bought Whole Foods, which is a supermarket chain. 470 markets in the US, Canada, and the UK. Strong footprint, premium food and grocery, also organic food, regional food, local food, and it has an excellent reputation in the US. And people wondered, how come Amazon suddenly goes and buys that kind of chain? I mean, Amazon being a purely digital player. To begin with, I explained you one of the key factors for digitization, i.e. grocery as one of the main drivers for digitization. And one of the companies which is strongly jumping on that bandwagon is Amazon. But when it comes to grocery, they also understood that logistics is quite tricky. If Amazon had gotten a grip on their logistics issue, they wouldn't have never bought a supermarket chain, but it was a viable step in order to boost fast growth. Let's take a closer look. And upon closer examination, you come to understand the dynamism and the power behind it and the concerns of buyers. First signs could be seen when Whole Foods sale was announced. Walmart's stock exchange price dropped straight away. So there was a very strong response straight away. And Amazon also dropped prices immediately in the Whole Food markets, and they really fueled sales as a result of that. Now things get really, really exciting due to the following fact. Amazon did one campaign. Visa card Prime customers, Visa card owner Prime customers, Amazon Prime customers got 5% discount on their online shopping. Why does Amazon do this? And, many people turned around and said, well, how can Amazon still earn a buck? How can they still generate a profit? Amazon is not about earning profit. But they want to generate customer data. They want to find out more about the customers. They want to find out more about their purchasing behavior, how they behave in individual product areas, and they want to collate that data and analyze it for bigger projects. And here Amazon Prime is very, very important. I don't know whether you really know how many Amazon customers there are in Germany. In 2016, the figure of Amazon was 44 million in Germany, 44 Amazon clients in Germany. And if you deduct babies and others, then that is quite something. So out of the 44 million 2016, 40% had, i.e. more than 17 million, had an Amazon Prime account. And when it comes to Amazon Prime, there's one important characteristic of these customers. They tend to have a bigger shopping cart than other customers. And because it's that easy, why not buy straight away on Amazon Prime? So I obviously share. I don't care about sharing my data. As a result of that, Amazon gets a much clearer idea of who I am, how and what I buy. And I think that's an important point. And it's also important to, understand trends between online and offline. And Amazon doesn't go offline in order to add complexity, in order to have brick-and-mortar shops, stationary shops, but they try to go offline in order to be as close as possible to the customer and to generate additional data and improve the purchasing experience or the buying experience of the customer. Let's take a look at these three examples, and all examples I know. The online player's core business is and remains e-commerce. Anything else is an add-on. It's, something that comes in additionally on top of the existing models, and it's fueled by these existing models. So at the end of the day, it's all about increasing the sales in the e-commerce channel. And we can also come to a second conclusion, a very clear second conclusion. So it's all about lead channels. It's about the leading channels. And if I say Amazon's core business models remains e-commerce, then the lead channel remains e-commerce. I mean, e-commerce is here to stay, and there won't be anything to change that. Anything else is an add-on. And then speed, costs, and economies of scale. That's very important for onliners. A couple of days ago, I spoke to an investor about precisely that topic. Investors in online, or general investors, are all about fast growth when they look at a business. They want to keep the risk as low as possible, and they want to get ROI as fast as possible. So, of course, increased sales, return on investment. And if I have a look at the inner towns, downtown, and if I look at the visitor frequencies, they decline. At the same time, they expect me, if I'm in the inner town, top locations, prime business locations, that I pay a high rent price. But on the other hand, I also need to provide a lot of event or entertainment. At the end, however, events don't generate any return per square meter. So in terms of business sense, it doesn't make any sense at all to go to CBD locations. The inner cities are not attractive, so why not stay online? And don't go to the brick-and-mortar trade. Why should I build a brick-and-mortar shop? And I think that's also an important lesson learned in this context. Whenever onliners go to brick-and-mortar shops, then this tends to be flagship stores or pop-up shops, which they open this month and or lock down again in 2 months, or it's about partnerships with others. Let's take a closer look at the flagship stores, Amazon and others. Any big onliner is prepared to foot the bill, even if it doesn't pay off, and even Amazon, however, wouldn't go to Minden, which is a small one-horse town, my hometown, so away from the big metropolitan areas, and set up a flagship store in Swindon, whatever. I mean, anything else is to do with big cost reduction. Last but not least, and I think this is also very disenchanting for the tourism industry, last but not least, apart from the one holiday booking shop, there is no example for service providers, online service providers who go to the brick-and-mortar store, Booking or Expedia, they would never open a high street shop. I mean, of course, you could talk to them about it, but I mean, it's extremely unlikely. If it happened, then it only happened amongst those onliners where people thought that touch and feel would support sales, but when it comes to services, this is not really relevant. Therefore, you should not succumb to the fallacy to think, oh, well, just because everybody is doing it, my business is going to benefit from it too. No, horses for courses. And let me also share another important lesson learned. You shouldn't rest on your laurels, and onliners who go to the high street tend to be much more digitized than their high street neighbors. They have a completely different background. They're coming from a different background. They have a different background of customer data, collection of customer data. Maybe this is also the advantage of being millennials, being digital natives. They can use customer data in a very different manner because they're structured, and therefore they can also harness the data generated in brick-and-mortar shops in a completely different way. So anything they learn on the high street can, of course, be leveraged in order to increase customer loyalty in the future. And that, again, is the big downside in this topic. So if somebody goes on, who is from an online background, goes to the high street, they obtain a lot of knowledge which the high street incumbents don't tend to have, the analog incumbents. So what are the lessons learned? And this is the crux. I think we can learn quite a lot from all of this. And there's one thing which, of course, is not new, but I think it's pivotal for future success. Well, one thing is customer data. regardless who I am, I need to prepare my customer data. And if I don't do my homework here, I've lost. I mean, it doesn't depend what kind of business model I have. When I was saying customer data, then it's not just a customer database. I mean CRM with GPS data, where they are, linking them across all channels, and a customized address of the customer. Personalized address. And I've been in the tourism industry for quite a few years, and very often I'm surprised that people are turning a blind eye on that topic. The big onliners have the customer data, they possess the customer data, and they will continue to harness this customer data using AI also in future. And very often I hear, well, we in our brick-and-mortar travel agency, we have much more customer knowledge there. I perfectly understand where they're coming from, and it's perfectly legitimate that an individual member of staff knows the customer. But when it's about launching campaigns, deliberate campaigns, targeted campaigns, addressing customers, I mean, that doesn't always have to be personalized or customized, then suddenly people are dragging their heels. And if I were at one of the high street travel agencies, this is where I would get in. And then the second topic is customer's focus. I mean, everybody says the customer focus, customer's king. Yes, customer is at the heart of everything that we do, whatever. But I mean, if I look at what they think when they say customer focus, then that's not necessarily what the customer wants. It starts with the opening hours on the high street, telephone services, and being available on the weekend. And of course, you can turn around and say, well, we can't do that, we can't deliver that. But I mean, the onliners can do that, and therefore it's no good to say, well, we can't do that. And I always emphasize that we have to be where the customer is. So we need to be aware of where the customer is located. And this is a point which I very often hear in many online discussions, where my neighbor does this, that, and the other, and now I also want to be present on these 3 channels. Okay, you can copy it if their approach, if you have enough resources, but I think it's much more meaningful to look at where the customers are, whom I want to have, and or who I have, and to be present and be very good where they are, because a bad channel, a bad newsletter is absolutely no good. There's other people who have, legions of people sitting there, and if you throw in the millionth newsletter after them, then this is no good. You need to think about your USP. You need to focus on the channels where you want to be, where your customers, where your desired customer is. Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Or will I launch a completely different campaign in order to reach out to these dream customers? And then something else where I think Germany is lagging behind, that's to do with our mentality. I mean, trial and error. I think that's always an issue in Germany. I think we have this kind of error tolerance. We need to be more proactive in testing and saying, well, it didn't work, I tried it, it didn't work, I will switch my approach straight away. And I think unless we adopt that nimble approach, we won't be fast enough in changing our business model. So trial and error, and then team up with the very best partners whom you have in your environment. And on the high street, it can be maybe a car dealer, it can be a cinema, it can be anything, you name it. But you won't be able to do everything yourself, and therefore you really need to focus on cooperation, and I wouldn't underestimate it. Find the right partners. I don't know whether you already went for lunch, but I think there's quite a few of Wurst booths, sausage booths. And the sausage booths here tend to always change their business model, because whoever is an entrepreneur needs to ask themselves day in, day out, why should the customer buy precisely my sausage? And unless you're capable of, answering that question, well, if you can't answer that question today, then you should start answering it no later than tomorrow, because the answer is, If the answer is yes, because my price is best, this is why they should buy my sausage, well, there's thousands of other people out there who say or claim they have the best price. And you won't be able to use the price as a USP. Or they should buy my sausage because I provide excellent advice. I mean, in the day and age of AI, I think that argument is not going to be that compelling. You need to be better, you advise better than others and have your niches. And this way you can reach out better to customers. I think the be-all and end-all when it comes to the question, the be-all and end-all is the question, where should customers buy from me? Amazon and Bezos. Let me end on that note. I mean, Amazon has 3 holy cows. And one of the points, apart from product innovation and the speed at Amazon, is the focus, is the concentration on the customer. And they don't look at what their competition is doing. They look at the customer. And I think that's what it's all about. I think this is where we should take a leaf out of Amazon's book. Focus on the customer. And don't focus on your competition. You're a person that's driven. If you always need to respond to your competition, you should focus on the customer and find the right business model. If you focus on the customer, you don't need to ask yourself, is it brick and mortar, is it or high street, or is it online? Because the boundaries are blurring, and at the end of the day, it's all about the customer and their shopping experience. The customer don't think in categories, silos, channels. They think solutions. They want to find the right solution, and we need to be the ones who can deliver their solution. Hopefully, I could inspire you a little bit to come up with the right solution. Thank you very much.